I'm in at the moment.
Are you going to ETH CC this year?
ECC, yeah.
Yeah. Is it going to be insane because of the Olympics?
It will be in Belgium, I think in Brussels,
Oh, okay.
because there is a Olympics in Paris.
Okay. It doesn't normally move around, right? It's normally just in Paris.
Yeah, normally it's Paris. It's just the exception this year because of the Olympics.
Gotcha.
Hard to organize and also hard for people to find where to stay. Okay.
Sounds good. Matthias says he can't talk, but just gonna listen. No worries. Cool. We'll give people some time to join. Like I said, it seems like most people are in favor of a little bit earlier of a call, so I'm not sure who all can join today, but got a couple people on. Hey, Maciek, how's it going?
Hey, I'm fine.
Cool. And then Diego is running a little bit late. But when he joins, he is going to give a presentation of Blobstream X. Okay, and we'll give people a couple more minutes to join. Hey, is this Roman?
Hey, yes, this is Roman. How are you doing?
Good, good. What's walnut.dev?
Walnut is a debugger for Cairo. It's a
And then,
debugger for Cairo transactions.
okay.
It's being built right now. So if someone's transaction fails, you can. The idea is that you'll be able to look into it and see what happened.
Awesome, awesome. Cool. Hey, Robon, how's it going?
Hey, I just finished downloading the Zoom virus. Took me a few minutes to get there. Doing fine. I'm stuck in my apartment. I can't like move. I need some tools to be able to move efficiently, but I'm here.
Well, it's good to have you. Cool, cool. So, maybe people will trickle in, but we got a pretty good crew on here now. So since this is the kickoff meeting, I'm thinking we just start by kind of just introducing ourselves. I'll start with me. I'm Ben. I'm from the exploration team. We have a couple team members from the Starkware exploration team on today, Maciek and Brandon as well. So feel free to ask us questions too, as far as, what is the exploration team? How does it operate? Any logistics that you guys have questions about. I've been with Starkware for 2 years. Before that, I did a little bit of work with the Ethereum Foundation. But yeah, I am a exploration team member, and we basically just, spin out these projects and identify a need for tooling in the ecosystem and spin it up with you guys, and build it with the community members. So that's me. Maybe I'll hand it over to Brandon.
Yep. I'm Brandon. I'm one of the newest members of the exploration team. Just started a couple weeks ago. Finished onboarding not too long ago. Yeah, going to be starting on the Blobstream project. Been exploring it a bit. Seems like it's really interesting work being done, and it's going to be really good for our ecosystem going forward, I think. My background, I graduated with a math degree in college. Was really math oriented. Did a lot of programming as well, internships and stuff. Really interested in blockchain development, building out this world computer idea that Vitalik came up with a while back. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. Should I hand it over to somebody?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can kind of just go along the line of my top bar. So Othman, if you don't mind, go next.
Yeah. So Osman, I have been building on Starknet for I think a little bit more than 2 years now. I've been early with the
Cairo Zero and stuff. Now I'm building a decentralized exchange for options on Starknet. It's not yet public, and I'm incubated at Stake Capital. Yeah, that's it on my. Before I was working in TradFi as a lead data scientist.
What's your options exchange going to be called? Or do you have a name?
It's not, yeah, it's not public yet, but it will be soon.
Gotcha. Cool. Cool. Maciek?
Hey, so I'm at exploration team as well. And previously I worked for MakerDAO for many years. That's it, I suppose.
Sweet. Roman?
Hi everyone. So I am building Walnut. Before that, I did a bunch of things on Ethereum. I am in the final stages of getting a developer partnership grant. Walnut is a tool similar to Tenderly, if someone is familiar with that from Ethereum. We're trying to build a debugger and transaction simulator for Starknet. We're also looking for contributors, so if anyone is interested, reach out.
Where are you based out of?
The team is remote. I'm personally in Czech Republic in Europe.
Gotcha. Cool. Cool. Well, happy to have you here. Raubon?
Hey, so I'm Robin. I'm from France. I used to work on the Belarus project with Ben here, and I was looking for opportunities to contribute to Ventus again. Thus, my presence here. I'm now a full-time independent, and I was planning on having a lot of time to contribute on the project, but I had some personal life issues that has kind of shortened my programming time, as I discussed with Ben. And I'm actually more of a full stack and front-end developer than a Web3 developer. So as I heard that there would be also issues focusing on the putting up a demo application, I might be more interested into this, considering my production time has shortened a bit. But I'm eager to get my hands dirty on the product and actually learn how it works and everything. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. And then Matthias, I think, says he can't talk today, but he is a pretty epic contributor in general, part of Pragma, if you guys know them. Cool. Well, happy to have you guys here. We can start by just kind of giving an overview of the repo, since this is the kickoff meeting. And then feel free to ask questions along the way. Like I said, Diego will be joining us soon, and he's going to give kind of a high-level overview of Blobstream X. So I'm not going to touch a ton on the internals of Blobstream X because I'll let him do that. But we can kind of just go over contributions to the project and how the repo is structured. I think, yeah, Othman's already got a PR in. So some of you are already familiar. Cool. So here it is, Blobstream Starknet. We have a couple open issues. If you guys saw the Telegram recently, we had a bit of a mess up with scope. Basically, the Blobstream contracts that were written in Solidity essentially are going to be deprecated. They're just too expensive to run. And so that's why they needed to come up with Succinct basically needed to come up with the ZK version of verifying the attestations and the data root inclusions. So that is all now done in Blobstream X. So maybe we'll start there. Okay, so these are the deprecated contracts. At a base level, the job originally was just going to be to kind of take the Solidity code and implement it in in Cairo, and that still is essentially the task. So the Blobstream.sol contract will essentially be deprecated, but the good news, like I said in Telegram, is that a lot of the dependencies here, including the namespace Merkle tree and the binary Merkle tree and the verifier, will be carried over to the Blobstream X contracts. We can look at the dependency tree. So here are the Blobstream X contracts under Succinct Labs. And we can see that we import the data availability oracle, and then the binary Merkle tree, and then there is some dependencies on the verifier, and the verifier then has dependencies on the namespace Merkle tree. So the issues that are tackling all of those subjects can still be worked on. So we have binary Merkle tree here, namespace hash digest here, namespace Merkle tree here. All of these can keep being dev'd out. Any questions on the new scope of the project and moving from the old Blobstream contracts to Blobstream X? Okay. And you can also ping the chat if you guys have any questions. But yeah, if there's no questions there, okay. So the task is pretty much the same, except for now we're dealing with different top level functions. So instead of the naive implementation of basically just writing the validators attestations and verifying the signatures in the contract, we're now essentially verifying a ZK proof of the attestations. And there's going to be there's a middleware relayer that's basically doing a proving mechanism that Diego will talk about. And then this contract on chain is verifying those proofs. So as of this morning, I have a PR in to change some of our top level logic. You'll see that the main contract is no longer Blobstream, it's Blobstream X. We were able to carry over our ownable components and our upgradable components. We now have the storage layout as is defined in the Blobstream X contracts. The event layout as is defined in the Blobstream X contracts, and some top level setters and getters. The other thing that changed as of that PR is some of the test layouts. So now we have tests kind of expanded out into the different components. So since the contract implements a data availability oracle interface, we have that test here. It implements and embeds an ownable interface from OpenZeppelin. So we have that broken out here. And it implements a OpenZeppelin upgradable interface, and that is set out here. Unless anybody has a better way to do it, I think I'd like to keep this format. So any interface that we are implementing, let's keep a test file dedicated to that interface. It just kind of keeps it nice. We have some common utils here for setting up the base contract, so declaring the Blobstream X contract with its test gateway. This is the succinct verifier gateway that is yet to be implemented and is currently just a hard-coded value, and then the owner. This is an interesting one here. We have a spy. So basically Starknet Foundry exposes a spy interface that we can catch events from the contract interactions. And so if you, in your tests, if you need to verify that a certain event was emitted, set up your test with setup spied, and then you can go in and double check that the correct event was indeed emitted. Cool. Any questions on the new layout of the project or the test layout?
I might have a question.
Yes.
So I kind of ran into this when I was doing some Merkle tree stuff. Um, in the blobx repo, they're importing the old Blobstream contracts through a Git submodule.
Hmm.
And it's on like it's pinned to a specific version through the submodule. When we're implementing the Solidity contracts in Cairo, should we try and use the version in that pinned commit, or should we try and use what's in the main branch of the Blobstream contracts? If maybe they're like planning on upgrading, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that is a good question. Let's ask Diego that. My gut
Yeah.
instinct is to just work off main. But let's ask Diego that, and then maybe can you also ping him that question in the Telegram?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I'm right down to do that after this.
Yeah, because the word from Celestia is essentially that they are migrating wholesale to Blobstream X. So, everything, I'm imagining this essentially becomes ossified to some degree. And all of the remaining work gets done in the Blobstream X contracts, but let's double check with him.
Sure.
Cool. Any other questions? Any other questions in regards to the repo? No, nothing. Okay. Okay. So a little higher level context to this project. Um, the Blobstream X contracts are a tool in what we hope will enable layer threes. The architecture diagram and the documentation is a little bit out of date. It still is referencing the Blobstream contracts, not the Blobstream X contracts, but high level, the overview is still pretty intact. The Blobstream contracts that we're writing now basically act as a middleware verifier contract for the core contracts for the L3. So, the scope of this project is to implement Blobstream X contracts here. But in order to really realize the vision of layer threes, we do also have to implement the core contracts or the core contract for the layer three as well. This is the Solidity code that you'll see in the main repository. I'll show it to you here. Okay, starknet.sol. So this is the on-chain brains for the canonical layer 2 Starknet the way it exists right now. There's a lot of boilerplate Solidity in here. The one that really matters for the day-to-day operation of Starknet is update state. So this is the function that is called after the layer 2 Starknet has proved its execution of the block on layer 2, and we write the call data to Ethereum on layer 1. This is essentially what makes us a validity rollup. So in the same way that we have to implement the Blobstream contracts in Cairo, we also have to implement the core contracts in Cairo as well, if we're going to realize that layer 3 architecture here. So for people on this call and for contributors to Blobstream X, I want to echo the fact that we do have a separate repo that's dedicated to this. It's called Piltover. This is going to be where those core contracts are written in Cairo. You are free to, you guys are free to contribute to this project as well, if that interests you. If not, this is essentially where we're heading. So, it's helpful to have the context. I'll put it in the chat here. Okay. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for kind of the 1,000-foot view of Blobstream X and layer 3s. Does anyone have any questions on what we're doing here, why we're here? Nothing.
I also have more questions, maybe. I was curious, I wasn't too sure how we were doing this, or maybe I don't fully understand, but how are we incentivizing Celestia validators to post the proofs to our L2, if that makes sense?
It does.
Just
Right now,
relaying it from
yeah. Originally what was happening was the validators were running a sidecar service, and I believe it was being subsidized by Celestia. Now what's happening with the succinct contracts is that they're running a middleware layer and running the relayer to the Blobstream X contracts. As far as like the game theory of it, I don't know who is paying them. It's a good question.
It's like a middleware proving service that they're running, kind of like how typical L2s do it.
Correct.
I see. I was curious if it was possible to like just see that they had posted the data on L1 and then relay it to layer 2 somehow. Yeah, I don't know.
It is. We can run the Celestia app and we can basically implement the relayer ourselves.
I see.
Yeah, so we can spin up a local node and verify that the data was included on Celestia, and then run this. All of Succinct stuff is open source, so essentially we could run their circuit and prove it ourselves, and then write to those contracts. I think that that's a little too involved for the first step, so I think we're gonna kind of offload that work to Succinct in the short term, and they'll run a similar relayer that they're doing for the Solidity contracts for our Cairo contracts.
Sure, makes sense.
I have a question. As far as I understand, there is a ZK proof verifier in somewhere among those contracts, right?
Correct.
And what kind of ZK proof system it is?
It's Snark. And I don't want to talk too much out of my ass. So
Okay,
I have.
but this is the main component that will need to be re-implemented.
You're talking about in the Cairo code?
Yeah.
Yes. So there is this succinct gateway that we will need to re-implement, and essentially, again, there's a bunch of boilerplate, but we will use this to verify the calls that the prover is making.
Okay. It was just to verify that I understand it correctly. So another question. I understand that Blobstream, not Blobstream X, contracts are too costly on L1, and that's why ZK technology is used, because it's simply cheaper to verify a proof instead of executing the whole verification on L1. But where from do we know that it will be too expensive to do it on L2?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. The way that it was described to me, let me ping Diego just to see what his ETA is. Because he would also be able to answer this. So two things. One would be, yeah, I would be interested to know if that was way cheaper, because the application logic of the actual contracts is way easier in those original contracts. Two is that the sidecar that the validators were running, that I believe is subsidized or was incentivized by Celestia in some way, is no longer going to be. So, that would require us to run the infrastructure for it, which isn't a bad thing, but I think at that point we'd be playing outside of Celestia's ecosystem a bit.
But infrastructure means a Celestia light client and some stuff that would turn I'm not sure if I'm using correct terminology, but the Celestia light client gets proof from Celestia nodes that data is available, and light client verifies it, and that's the logic that Blobstream contracts replicate on chain, right? So the infrastructure gets responses from Celestia nodes and relies that into a in case of Blobstream X, wrap it in a proof that is later verified by Blobstream X. But in case of raw Blobstream, it just sends the data to L1 contracts when the verification is done.
Yeah. So essentially we would need to run a Celestia node and then call this function. Except for it obviously wouldn't be a Solidity function, it'd be our implementation of submit data root tuple root. And that's essentially
maybe that's not that complex.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's a good point. I wonder if there is like a cheap way to rule this in or out. Like say, it's obviously way too cost prohibitive to do it on L1, but if there was someone that wanted to just go in and say the deprecated contracts are or are not super cheap in Cairo. What are your guys' thoughts? Without doing a whole bunch of work.
I feel like maybe it might be harder to maintain the Cairo version if they stop maintaining the Blobstream and Solidity, because we'd have to make corresponding changes if something changes on the Blobstream side or on the Celestia side without having their contracts. Maybe. Does that make sense?
Well, since Blobstream X, yeah, it makes sense for the top level Blobstream contract, but since Blobstream X imports the Blobstream contracts, I mean, they are going to have to maintain them to some degree. I mean, I think someone could essentially just, maybe I'll open up a ticket for this. Okay, so two things actually. One is I have this tag here. With the old contracts. So, for a situation like this where we want to go see something like this, This tag has the old top level contract. So someone could essentially just come through and benchmark, not that one. It looks like it was never. Oh, here it is. So someone could just go through and benchmark this function with some test data. Yeah,
Yeah, it shouldn't be a very time-consuming process
yeah,
to
yeah.
get some results.
No, I totally agree. Okay, I'll open up a
And
ticket.
frankly, you do not need to run it. You just need to read it and then estimate what is the cost.
Okay. Would you want to do that, Maciek?
No, I don't want to commit to anything right now. But
Okay.
if you send me a link, maybe I will have a look.
Okay. Cool. I'll blast this out to the. I'll clean this up and blast it out to the Telegram after this call. Cool. Yeah, that's good. Good point. Okay. So Diego will be joining soon. Before that, I wanted to talk about open issues, or let's see, Roman, are you assigned to anything?
No, I'm just a visitor today.
Okay. So feel free to go in and grab, looks like this is the only open issue. Would you want to, this is just kind of contract work, implementing this event. Would you want that one?
I'll take a look, but please don't assign me right now. I don't want to commit today.
Okay, no worries. Robin, can you give an update on your ticket?
Yeah, I didn't make much progress yet. I'm a bit taken off by personal matter, so I was thinking about talking about you to releasing the issue, so someone with more time could be able to take care of it faster.
Okay. And do you want to go ahead with that? Do you want me to unassign?
Yeah, sure. You can unassign.
Can you remind me of the issue number?
It was a binary mercury, the bottom one, 24.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Othman, do you have a current assignment?
No current assignment.
Okay.
I had the one pull request. I already done it.
Okay, perfect. Feel free to grab one of these open ones
Yeah.
if you're free.
Yes.
Sweet. Brandon, did you have any issue that you wanted to give an update on?
I wouldn't say I had any issue. I actually the binary Merkle tree, I had implemented it. There's an open PR for it right now. It is pretty much just like a direct port of what was existing. I guess I mean I'm just starting with Cairo. I just learned it like 2 weeks ago. So maybe I didn't use the best practices, but I did, for instance, think using the enums was kind of odd. Maybe I should switch them to constants instead. But when Cairo 2.5 comes out, it might be a little better. Like I have those commented sections that are what it could be in Cairo 2.5. Yeah.
Sweet, sweet. I'll go ahead and review this after the call. Is this an implementation of that entire module?
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay. Cool. I'll go ahead and review that after this. All right. Diego has joined. Hey, Diego.
Hello.
How's it going?
Good, and y'all?
Pretty good. Cool. So we had a couple open questions for you. I believe Brandon, you had a question for him?
Yeah.
Oh, I think it was like how is maybe let's do this. Are you good to go ahead and give the presentation and then maybe we can ask questions as we go?
Yeah, I can do I have some slides prepared. It's like very short, but can definitely essentially give an explanation. I'm assuming most people here have like read something on Blobstream or if not, it's just like very digestible content, and we can kind of like look at the diagrams, and then if folks have questions like code related, we can hop on to like the um the GitHub repo and then go from there.
That's perfect.
Let me see. Where? Oh, it seems the screen sharing is disabled.
There
Isn't
were
it?
there was a Madara community call where someone had gotten the public Zoom link and essentially put some not safe for work
Content.
screen shares up. But
Oh crap! I got you.
yeah, it's all good now.
All right, all right. Okay. Yeah. Share this. So I'm just gonna go through these slides, which kind of compile information that's been posted on articles as well as like an upcoming draft, or sorry, an upcoming like update to our docs that includes um essentially the content behind Blobstream X, like better explaining what Blobstream X is. But before we get to that, like what is Blobstream, right? In case you've heard of this name before, it was formerly known as Quantum Gravity Bridge. So Blobstream is just essentially, if you will, a rebranding of this like idea of this protocol that allows anyone to relay commitments to Celestia's data route to an on-chain like client, which rollup developers can integrate into their rollup contracts, right? What this enables is Ethereum developers to build like high throughput L2s, right? Like the Lithiums that, as an example, like the Lithiums that use Celestia DA, which as of now is like the only live network with data availability sampling, right? What makes it different from like using a DAC? DACs, including ones that are like restake-based solutions, introduce significant trust assumptions for L2s. Since it's not possible to prove like on-chain on Ethereum, or even in this case, like on Starknet the L2 or in any network, that transaction data has been made available. And thus is not possible to slash a DAC operator on Ethereum or on Starknet, which forces these to like rely on reputation, governance mechanisms, veto committees, or token voting. Now, what Blobstream enables is that it allows L2 developers in the like broad Ethereum ecosystem, which of course includes like Starknet, to integrate Celestia as a DA layer. Because we have dedicated blob space that is like price independent or priced independently from Ethereum gas. It's meant to essentially be a specialized network for DA, right? There's no extra considerations on how some execution layer might affect the gas pricing for your blobs. In contrast to a DAC secure L2, L2s that use Blobstream tap into Celestia's crypto economic security properties, since it's a dedicated proof of stake consensus network. The way this happens is essentially thanks to like data availability sampling, right? So validators and delegators are accountable to Celestia's network of like client nodes, which like clients themselves can be operated by anyone. They have like low hardware requirements and also like bandwidth requirements. I forgot to add pictures here, but like last year there was a bunch of like pictures of like people across the world, including myself, posting pictures of like, oh, running a light node like somewhere randomly. But also people have like played around with like running Celestia light nodes on like any kind of device. I think the lowest hardware requirement device that I've seen a Celestia light node run on is the Kindle book, like the Amazon Kindle book, which is pretty cool. Continuing this like topic on like what this enables, right? So I'm not gonna LARP and like lie about like, oh, what are the assumptions here? When somebody uses DA that's external to the network that you're like using, right? Meaning when you're using any form of like Validium on Ethereum or even on an L3 on Starknet. In general, there's this known idea that from the eyes of Ethereum, and in this case, you could say that from the eyes of Starknet, right? Like if you're a Starknet L3 that posts to Starknet L2, from the eyes of the underlying network, outside DA, all really looks like a data availability committee, right? Like that's a fact. Not going to sugarcoat it. However, the whole point here, right, is to essentially have crypto economic security for these things, right? So while Blobstream does rely on correct attestations from like this like data availability committee, quote unquote, like very hard, quote unquote, that's formed by the Celestia validator sets. Light nodes can detect if a majority of validators have been malicious by withholding data and slash them. Slashing happens through like social consensus. As I mentioned before, there's no way to prove like data withholding on any chain. So data withholding is like the only way that we know on how to slash it is through social consensus. And while this is not like completely trust minimized, as if like you were a rollup fully on Celestia, or if you were a rollup fully on Ethereum, assuming Ethereum already had like full DEG sharding, using Blobstream for Ethereum rollups and Starknet L3s does provide you with the crypto economic security guarantees that are not possible via traditional DACs or even like DAC-based solutions. So like more into the technical, how does this work, right? Like from a sort of like first principle, Blobstream essentially allows anyone to relay attestations, right, between Celestia and any network. So it's permissionless relay, right? Obviously, wherever you relay data to has an associated gas cost for submitting such an attestation. But anyone that's interested can like run a relayer. And
So we
yeah.
had a quick question on that. So in the Blobstream, not the Blobstream X context, I think you said that there was like validators were being incentivized to run a sidecar service to relay. Is that correct?
Yes. So they weren't necessarily being so the sidecar service is just essentially part of a module that was already for context, Celestia is a Cosmos SDK chain. I'm not gonna explain Cosmos SDK right now. But it allows you to build your custom state machine by like essentially adding modules, right? And there is at least in testnet a Blobstream module, which for validators to fully, essentially complete their tasks once Blobstream landed on mainnet, you have to actively run this module as well, which requires you to run the sidecar process. The only thing that I believe was like being discussed on like how do you incentivize any part of this is incentivizing the relayers themselves. I'll get on Blobstream X in like a second, but there was never a case where we like needed to incentivize validators to run the sidecar process, and I'll talk about the sidecar process in a bit, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this diagram is like essentially just like a concept. The same thing kind of applies for Blobstream X, right? Like in the sense, like the idea is that your L2 or your rollup has some transaction data that gets published to Celestia, and these like data attestations get relayed to some contract. And then the L2s use their proof system, right? Like validity proofs or fraud proofs, and post those to their respective contracts. And when you verify said proofs in those roll-up contracts, you also integrate the Blobstream contract so that you can verify that the data for some batch, right, was actually made available on Celestia. So now into like, okay, what is Blobstream X? So just to be clear, Blobstream X is an implementation of like Blobstream, right? If we consider Blobstream like this idea that I mentioned before, Blobstream X is just a implementation that uses CK to verify Celestia's validators, ED, DSA signatures on Ethereum. It's definitely made it confusing, not just for other people, but also for me, like when referring to things, right? Having to switch between Blobstream and Blobstream X and vice versa. But I mean, like, look, even I myself, like, left the space here when writing about Blobstream X, right? But anyways, Blobstream X basically simplifies the infrastructure because the first implementation of Blobstream, as Ben brought up, right, required a sidecar service. The reason for that is that Celestia is a Tendermint. Celestia is a Cosmos SDK chain, right? It's Tendermint based, uses Tendermint consensus. Validators use ED DSA as the signature scheme, which is not cheap to verify at all on Ethereum. If not essentially like not gonna say impossible, but like very, very cost prohibitive. So then what we did is have validators run a sidecar service as part of the Blobstream module, which would require them to sign using ECDSA. And then those would have to get relayed to like, say, like Ethereum, right? Now with Blobstream X, they build the circuits that allow us to like natively verify Celestia's validators EDDSA like signatures, which not only has the benefit of like, oh, because now all this fits into one proof, which is of constant size, the cost to verify all these signatures doesn't grow with the number of validators, which before was the case, right? Like if you naively have a ECDSA sidecar service and you have to relay 100 ECDSA signatures, and then in the future maybe you had to relay 150, the gas cost grows linearly, maybe even a little bit faster. But with Succinct's like work on the broader Tendermint X library, you can verify EDSA signatures. So now it's like a fixed cost to verify all these signatures on Celestia and more once the validator set grows. Or when it grows further, I guess. But the other benefit, if you haven't realized it yet, is that because we can natively verify EDDSA on Ethereum and hopefully with the work that we're trying to do here with Starknet and the Madara community as a whole, right? We no longer require validators to run a sidecar service, meaning that validators can now focus on like using whatever resources they have available to just do the rest of the very simple and mundane task that Celestia validators do, which is like ingest data and erasure code it and whatnot, right? Which makes things better overall for everyone. And also the work that Succinct has done opens up the door for like having proofs further beyond just Celestia's consensus, right? This will probably come in some future implementation, right? This is not going to happen at Blobstream X launch, which is sometime like this month, probably in the next couple weeks. But in the future, right, we hope to be able to prove other things, right, like block validity rules, or the Celestia state machine, which is very tiny, which should further reduce the trust assumptions to like go from 2/3 to like maybe as low as like 51%, right? Which is like the theoretical limit of like the trust assumptions that you have to have on like any other external chain when you're communicating or bridging any data between them. The overall diagram, so this is like Excalidraw, this is from a draft PR in the not so distant future, probably this week. Once the docs are fully live, you'll see the same diagram, but like better. But essentially, you take a bunch of like Celestia headers for like a range of heights, say like height 100 through height 400. And those are given to a CK program on Succinct's prover, which consumes all of those as inputs and then generates the necessary proof and calls the update function on Blobstream X, right? Which then essentially signifies the end of like relaying a data route, right? More broadly speaking, what this looks like is essentially that rollups post their data to Celestia, and then people, like anyone, can take or produce these like Blobstream X proofs from Celestia's consensus data through the use of Tendermint X and the Succinct like prover network. And then they can verify like people can verify these like Blobstream X proofs through the use of the Succinct gateway contracts and the Blobstream X like client, through the Succinct gateway contracts to then update the Blobstream X like client contract, which then gets queried by the rollup nodes and it becomes also part of like the rollup contract. Like it has to be integrated somewhere when you verify a proof, which then lets essentially the rollups know whether data was included or not on Celestia and whether they should discard a batch and on the rollup. And that's pretty much it.
I got some
can-
questions on
yeah.
this one. So one is, how is Succinct getting paid for their gas cost?
I personally don't know the full details on like how Succinct's getting paid on their gas costs. I mean, my assumption is that they might like someone is paying for the proving service, and maybe the proving service offsets part of the gas cost, maybe or maybe like the plan is for them to submit some type of like proposal in which the Celestia like community fund, which is voted through on-chain governance, can like essentially give them a gas subsidy. For context, like in Celestia, we don't burn gas fees, but there's a percentage of the block rewards and fees that goes to like essentially a pool that is managed by the community. Like you can't just like spend these funds arbitrarily. They have to be like agreed upon by through on-chain governance, which is like part of like Cosmos SDK. But yeah, like I don't have any full details on like how Succinct is doing this without like burning a hole in their pocket. That might be a better question to ask Succinct themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then this also might be a question to ask them, but we'll essentially need a Succinct gateway written in Cairo. I'm wondering if the best place for that to live might be the Succinct repo, or do you think we should build that out in the Blobstream Cairo contracts?
It might be worth having it on maybe on a separate repo. I think we would have to double check with Succinct whether they would like I don't know, like this to not like, but like if they want the responsibility of having this in their GitHub repos, right, or not. It's also like even a question on my end whether we like necessarily need the Succinct gateway. I mean, my assumption is that like if you look at this from like if you zoom out and you look at this from first principles, like maybe you don't. Like, I'm not fully sure what the succinct gateway does. Like realistically, what you need is like a contract that can ingest these proofs and like update the state of the on-chain light client. However, for simplicity's sake, it might actually just be easier to, yeah, like implement these contracts in Cairo, because I'm assuming these contracts is what the succinct prover network looks at on at least on Ethereum, and whatever other networks they've like integrated with, so that they can get updates on like their requests and whatnot, that are being processed, people still have to process. So that's actually a good question to ask the succinct folks.
Okay, for the time being, we'll just build them out in our repo, and then if they end up wanting them, we can talk about porting them.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I think, and that part of it, that whole succinct gateway, and verifying the succinct prover, I think is the least defined part right now. So, you know, we'll have to build out some clarity as we look at it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Maybe I think, you know, I'd like these calls to be about an hour, so I think we'll kind of wrap it up here. Does anyone have any outstanding questions for Diego or myself or Brandon or Maciek? Okay. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, moving forward, the community calls will be held at 1500 UTC. I think that's what worked best for the majority of everybody. If you can't make it, I will post the video link in the Telegram. And yeah, let's wrap it up there. Everyone have a good day. And Diego, thanks for joining and giving us that presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
All right.
Thank you.
Later.